Hello and welcome to Boom Goddess Radio. I'm Jennifer Davis Page, your host, and today we welcome to our studio Johnathan Lee Iverson, an accomplished and history-making showman who's been privileged to grace the most coveted stages and arenas around the world. As the Ringmaster, I'm trying to sound like you, Johnathan, as the Ringmaster of Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus. Welcome, Johnathan, to Boom Goddess Radio.
Thank you so much. That wasn't a bad job. I've had people try, and woo, it was an experience. So I really appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. I am thrilled to have you join us today and tell our listeners, tell our Boom Goddess listeners about your experience with Ringling Brothers, how you got started, and to help any young people that think that this might be in their future as a master of ceremonies, for you to tell them how to do that. So tell me, how many years did Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus, how many years were they in business around the world? Did they?
Well, they were around for 146 years. I always knew them as America's longest running hit show. Live hit show. So they were around for 146 years. Rumor has it that they may be creeping back into existence very soon. So I'll be the last ringmaster with an asterisk. But I served in that position for roughly 17 years. And it was the thrill of my life, of course.
Tell our audience how it all started.
It was just a beautiful accident, This business is fickle, show business. As I always tell aspiring entertainers, most of your time out there on the grind and the cattle calls and the auditions, you get used to the word no, but don't be discouraged by it, because all you need is one yes to change your life. And I happened to get a yes rather early. I just graduated from the Hart School of Music of the University of Hartford. The goal was to continue my studies in opera, and I was going to have a major opera career. That was what the goal was since I was 13 years old, when I was a member of the Boys Choir of Harlem, and I saw the great Placido Domingo. We were in Japan, and we were on the bill with him. We were performing for former President Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, First Lady, and they were very charming. Well, she was very charming, and they introduced Placido Domingo, and my life changed in an instant. And I said, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And I set myself to that. And so there was the Boys Choir of Harlem. I was ensconced in an environment and with a lot of cheerleaders and great teachers, and even my peers were very encouraging with regards to my pursuits. I went to Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, the famed school. And then I ventured over to the Hart School of Music, where I had wonderful education there under the great tenor Jerome Pruitt. And the plan was to go to Europe after graduating to continue studying. But I had to raise money. So I was out and about running around, auditioning for anything and everything. And I was auditioning for a dinner theater. It was the Fireside Dinner Theater, which is based in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. I was auditioning for their Christmas show. It so happened that the director of the Christmas show was also directing Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey, and he was on the search. He was searching for a ringmaster for the 129th edition, known as the Living Carousel. And I so happened to, I guess, fit the type. And, he called me up. He said, look, we want you for the dinner theater, but I want you to consider auditioning for this as well, for Ringmaster. And I was up against about 30 other candidates. So it wasn't like they just handed it to me. I said, well, yeah, why not? Sure. And I did. And basically the rest was history. I was supposed to be 1 or 2 years. I'd raise some money and off to Europe I would go. I had no idea it would turn into the greatest career that I could even imagine.
And how long did you say you were with them for 29 years?
No, 17. 17. I was about, Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And you were, now let's rewind a bit. How
Mhm.
old were you when you were in Japan with the dream? How old were you then?
I was 13 years old, and I
Okay.
was with the world famous Boys Choir of Harlem.
And then when you met the gentleman who eventually changed your life, how old were you then?
Oh, that Phil McKinley. I was 22 years old. I was 22 years old. Yeah.
Now the circus, did you ever dream that it would be the circus? Did you know the circus? Tell me, when you were a child, did you clamor to go to the circus whenever it came to town? Did you love the circus? Tell us how excited you were
Yeah,
about that
Ringling
thought.
Brothers and Barnum and Bailey was always a part of my life in some capacity. It just was a part of, you know, New York tradition. The institution itself has a intimate relationship with the New York area, namely Madison Square Garden. And so, as a child, like most New York kids, you sort of clamored to go every year. It was just something you did, and I never thought of it as anything particularly special, other than just being able to go and have cotton candy and just be in the atmosphere. It was never something I even considered as a career or something I would do. It's just, circus people are otherworldly. That's how I thought of them, and I didn't think of that as it's just fun. Going in Madison Square Garden was always a magical thing, whether it was going to see Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, or then what was known as WWF. I got to see the great Andre the Giant, or whether it was going to a Michael Jackson concert. I saw the great late Michael Jackson and his Bad tour when I was about 11, and that was mind blowing. I was like in the fourth row. So just I think visiting any events at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I saw the late great Fred Price at Madison Square Garden. So it was just that atmosphere, and I never even contemplated that I would one day be headlining there with the greatest show on earth. So it was one of those things when I got that call. Would you like to audition with it? It just seemed like it was so out of left field, but it reminded me of what my mother had told me what could possibly happen. When you're in college, you're sometimes you get a little you get cold feet with regards to what it is you really want to pursue.
How wonderful is this story? Tell me, how does one prepare? How did you prepare for an audition with Ringling Brothers? How did you, and was it at Madison Square Garden? What kind of venue was it in? And did you
Well,
dress up for it?
no, no. My first audition was at NOLA Studios. They have all of these different studios and rehearsal spaces in New York City that are frequented by theatrical artists and things of that nature. So my audition was there. It was very. It wasn't the most extravagant type of audition. It was very bare bones. I had, of course, recite the famous lines. They actually recorded me for the producer, said, okay, we want you to say these lines, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. So I did that. And they said, okay, sing a couple of songs. And I had a couple of songs I prepared and that I sang. And it was made known to me, and they kept emphasizing it, that they were looking for a singing ringmaster, and they wanted somebody with chops. I had no idea Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey really had this incredible musical legacy, that there were ringmasters before me who were brilliant singers, vocalists, and you really had to be trained, because I mean, you're performing over 450 shows a year. You don't leave the floor, and these aren't like little ditty presentations. These are 2.5 hour, I mean, extravaganzas. And so you are using your voice. And so I would say, everything leading up to it really prepared me uh, to be able to endure it. I don't think you can ever prepare for a circus. They kind of throw you in the ocean and say swim. And so I kind of called on everything I had. I had a lot of performing experience. I had a lot of wonderful performance training experience. And also I had a lot of great social training experience. I was of a generation where they actually taught you how to interact with people of various cultures, ages, what have you. So I was sort of like, even though I was green going into the greatest show, I was kind of a dream canvas for them to work with, because there were so many things there that they could work with and improve upon, and they did. It was a world-class organization.
How long did it take you from the day that you got that call saying, we want you to join our family, to the day you started? How long was that process?
Well, that's wonderful. That may have been about 2 months. 2 months, if I can recall, because I remember, I think, no, yeah, no, actually, it was like about a month and a half, because I auditioned for the dinner theater somewhere in October or late September, something of that nature. And then I got the call like that night that they wanted me to audition. And so I came back in and I auditioned. And so, they said, well, we'll wait. They sent it to the producer. And then they called me in to do another audition, and then a final one for the late great vice president of talent and production. His name was Tim Holst, and he had one of the most exciting jobs in show business. He literally circled the globe 4 times a year, casting the greatest show on earth. So he flew in to I was in Fort Atkins, Wisconsin, and he flew in to basically hear me and give me the seal of approval. And that was somewhere in, I would say, early November. I want to say is when I basically agreed that I would venture forth and join the greatest show on earth.
And when and where was your first show?
My first show was in, I believe, Tampa, Florida. It was on Christmas Day, in fact. it was basically a preview show, but it was really, really wonderful, very exciting. I just remember there was just so much. It kind of was a blur. I wasn't really nervous, but it was just sort of a blur. But I remember it was just tremendously exciting. The audience was wonderful. They were very receptive. My reception was really wonderful. I mean, people really took to me quite immediately. But, for us, the show doesn't really start until it hits New York City. So we always looked at the opening in Madison Square Garden, which occurred in March of 1999, as the world premiere. And that's how we always saw it. That would be the world premiere. Because, of course, New York being the media capital of the world and all. So, and that was my hometown. So it was a great buildup going into it.
Did you talk to any previous ringmasters to kind of get a sense of their experience with the circus, or no?
A little bit. Yes, I did. I mean, some were more generous than others. I could say that. There were some who were very, they gave me some pointers on how to care for my throat. And there were others who, were really good and, just giving me certain ways how to hold a hat, certain decorum, things like that, just finer things to do. And some were very generous. The great Jimmy James Plott came and visited with me, and he gave me a wonderful basket of cookies and said, you make sure you tell them exactly what you want. So it was wonderful.
Well, we are going to take a brief break, and we will be back with the Ringmaster Extraordinaire.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Boom Goddess Radio. This is Jennifer Davis Page, your host, and I'm in the studio today with a remarkable gentleman, and his name is Johnathan Iverson, the ringmaster of Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus, the last ringmaster of the Barnum and Bailey Circus. And welcome, Johnathan, so much to Boom Goddess Radio.
Thank you.
tell me now that I understand that the Ringling Brothers closed down in 2017. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, it did close
And
down.
do you think that they'll ever bring the circus back to town? Do you think that'll ever come back again?
Well, from what I understand, it is actually they are moving forward. They being Feld Entertainment, who owns Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. They've owned it for over 50 years. They are actually moving forward to resuscitate the show. From what I've seen via social media, they've hired a casting director, I believe, and specifically for Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. Now, Feld Entertainment is the largest live family entertainment entity in the world. They present things like monster trucks, nuclear cowboys, Disney on Ice, all of those types of wonderful offerings that go around the arenas all over the world, actually. So as you can imagine, they were hit pretty hard during the pandemic, but being the resilient company that they are, they've clawed their way back, and they're also going to resurrect Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, to no one's surprise, really, who actually knows the business. I think they were encouraged by the audience reaction when we announced we were closing. Suddenly, we were like the hottest ticket in the country, and every arena was sold out. I think they underestimated how much people truly did appreciate the greatest show on earth, and so being encouraged by that, and of course the resurgence of people's interest in all things circus. Of course, the film The Greatest Showman came out, starring the great Hugh Jackman, and so suddenly this is amazing interest in circus. And so it's actually done wonders for the business, even though Ringling Brothers closed down. Circus as a genre has really continued to do quite well. I mean, other shows even now during the pandemic are selling quite well. They're doing well, and new shows have opened. I'm a part of a new one entitled Omnium, a Bold New Circus. That's Omnium circus.org. In one word, omniumcircus.org. It's a beautiful new company. It's a non-for-profit, so we love your contribution. But it's a great organization. It is really about expanding expanding the tent. It's definitely with the traditional inclusion that the circus is known for, but we're doing even more. I mean, you're going to see multi-abled artists in the circus, multi-sensory, multinational, multicultural, everything. It's going to be really in depth. It's going to the thing is, it's going to really be accessible to all people, you know. And we're doing it virtually, and we're looking to actually open up this fall our first live presentation under the big top. So that's an exciting project I'm with. And there's also the emergence of the American Circus Alliance. You can also find that online as well, the American Circus Alliance, which is it's really an advocacy group within the performing arts. We're actually on a campaign to encourage our elected officials on a national level to assign, to appoint a Secretary of Arts and Culture. We don't have one in this country. And so, yeah, we're fiercely, you know, encouraging them to, hey, the time is now. The arts contribute greatly to the economy and just to our nation's identity and culture. And so it's time that we have an office that is well funded and focused on really the arts, and that includes the circus arts.
Is the Bold New Circus that you just spoke about, is that more like Circus Olay, or will it have animals as well?
Oh no, we'll have animals. In fact, in our virtual production that's online at omniumcircus.org, we feature the great Ginny Vidbell and her beautiful steeds. Yes, we'll have animals in the show. And it's really a celebration of living things. That's what circus is all about, and we'll keep to that tradition, definitely.
How many, I was a director at Amtrak, so I'm a trained person. And
Right.
I saw one day I was coming from Washington to New York on Amtrak, and we were put on hold. And we were put on hold because the circus was coming to town. And that was the longest train I
Yes.
had ever seen. Do you remember? I mean, did you try? You obviously traveled on the train with all your coworkers, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
It
how
was a
many
city.
cars? How many cars were on it? Do you remember
I
that?
think it was over 66.
It was
It was about a mile and it was about a mile and so long. It was the largest privately owned train in the world. Barnum was the first to put a show of that kind on the rails. Best way to see the country, as you know, is the rails. And we lived on there. I had my quarters was like a larger version of a New York City studio apartment. I had 2 bedrooms, one for my children. They had bunk beds, and a master bedroom for my wife and I. We had a wonderful bathroom and everything, and we had a living room and kitchenette as well. So it was cozy. We didn't have to live out of our suitcases. We literally had a home that went with us. It was just, I mean, I was spoiled. I was absolutely spoiled.
did you and your family have a home, or was this your home? I mean, how often were you, I'm saying at home, but were you ever
You
at
know
home?
what? Quite frankly, that was our home because we were on the road
Okay.
11 months out of the year.
Oh,
And
okay.
then we would go on vacation to my wife's home country of Brazil.
Okay.
So, we would do that for our time off. And, maybe we would go to New York to my mother's home, so the kids could visit, but we were always on the road.
That must have been a thrill for your children. How old were they when they were with dad on the train, dad and mom on the train?
My daughter literally grew up on there. My son was 4 when we went back on the road together. And
Okay.
my daughter was 9 months when she came to the circus with us. So she learned to walk. She learned to be glamorous. She was being raised in a dressing room full of just dynamic women who were glamorous and strong. And I mean, she literally took in all of those attributes. Her mother actually ran the show behind the scenes as the production manager. So mommy basically ran my life all day. And so she learned all of those things. She was watching women actually produce the show and run the show and star in the show and do fantastic stunts and things like that. And my son as well. He was just watching these incredible bodies. My son is more of a of he's more of a logistics guy, and he's an artist. So he really got joy in he enjoyed like a master class, basically. If you can imagine, some of the world's greatest set designers and directors are there, and they were very kind to him, where they would invite him into their space and they let him see how they created the show, and he loved that portion. And he was serious about it. He would draw things, and they would encourage him. And so my kids, they had it extraordinarily well. I mean, as did many of the other kids. It was like they grew up, had a zoo right there.
That's, they've got books in them already. See,
Right.
they're already on the bestseller list. I would at some point like to speak with your wife about and have a conversation with her about behind the scenes. After speaking with you, I would love to hear what she has to say about behind the scenes. Tell me, we only have about 4 minutes left, but tell me about the animal world on the circus. I mean, can you tell us how many tigers, how many elephants? Can you tell us how they lived and traveled and got fed? I understand there must have been quite a menu for them. I mean,
Oh yeah. When I began with the show, we had the largest animal menagerie that we ever had in the show's history. I mean, I think it was well up into maybe 80s, 100. I don't know. It was so many animals. And it was a diversity of animals, of course, elephants and camels. And we had an ostrich, we had lions, tigers,
mhm.
zebras, you name it, miniature donkeys, ponies, alpacas, llamas. Yeah, we had house cats at one point, birds, pigeons. everything. It was just it's extraordinary. They were spoiled as spoiled could get. They had the best care. They had their own quirky personalities, even within their groups. You always kind of knew who was who. You knew which animals you didn't want to be alone with, who were really mischievous. You had animals who were they love attention. They would, I would, there was this one elephant, Kellyanne. She would actually do this elephant painting that we would give away during the show. And she was very social. She'd have her trunk in your face. You had to acknowledge her. I mean, there was a dog on the show. I'll never forget this dog. She would bark and bark, and you had to say hello to her. And I thought that was so crazy. When somebody, no, you got to say hello. I said, you crazy. I'm not saying hello to a dog. And I kid you not, when I said hello to her, she stopped. I was like, this is wild. They all have their own little personalities. Some are more zealous about performing than others. Some would be lazy. I've seen elephants, who would do the same routine wonderfully, and then just one day they just stopped cold and didn't want to do it. And what do? Are you going to tell a 5-ton creature what to do? And that would be the end of the act.
What happened to all the animals? I mean, did they get homes around the world? I mean, what
No,
happened?
most of the animals were owned by the trainers that they came with. So they went back home with them. Ringling Brothers also owned like their own share of animals. So from last I understand, they have a conservation center in Florida, somewhere in Florida. And so a lot of the elephants were retired to that space.
We only have a minute left to this conversation, and I'd like to ask you to tell our listeners how they can get to your website, get more information about you and about the other Bold New Circus that you're involved with now. So would you give them all of that information, please?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You can always keep in contact with me at bigtopvoice.com, bigtopvoice.com. That's one word. You can find me on any social media platform, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Last Ringmaster. That's at Last Ringmaster, and that includes LinkedIn too. You can also find our Bold New Circus, omniumcircus.org. Omniumcircus.org. OMNIUM circus.org.
I so appreciate you taking the time with me and with the listeners of Boom Goddess Radio to introduce yourself, to introduce, I mean, I was thrilled when I met you, and I did not know because I just didn't know that you were probably the best, absolutely the best ringmaster, and the first African-American ringmaster. Are you interested in going back?
That's up to the audience, and I mean, if they call me, we'll see. I won't dismiss it. I keep my options open.
We thank you so very much. We hope to see you at the circus. Thank you to all of my Boom Goddess listeners. Johnathan, I thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.